know it's been a while. We back at it again. Getting ready at this point, pre-spring. Getting ready to see all of this chaos right here, to bring order to this chaos and to make it something beautiful. So I have a vision in mind. Let me go ahead and show you what I got planned for the spring. So first up, you can see I've replaced most of my wooden beds with metal beds. I got these off Amazon, pretty decent. This one I like. This one here, I'm gonna show you in a minute, not so much, and I'm gonna tell you why. But went ahead and placed the wooden bed. Have the archway. My grapes, beans are gonna trellis over it, and so forth. Or I can trellis it back the other way, you know, whatever's your flavor. Now, this bed I also got off Amazon, but I don't like. And that's because instead of coming in 2 long pieces or even 4 long pieces, it came in like 16 squares. It's supposed to be modular, which is cool, but the problem is these joints, I didn't care for the joints, right? You have 2 squares here. Each side has 1, 2, 3, 4 squares on each side, and I'm not really liking it because I feel like it's not as sturdy. Pliers as braces instead of hard braces, which also not a real big fan on. One of the problems with the braces is as you put weight, it's going to want to draw it inward. The idea is to be able to keep it from pushing out when you fill it with soil. But the problem with these is you got to fill it in a section at a time, because the weight will actually, even if you tighten it, right, that weight is still going to want to bow it inward. So, not a big fan of them. Not a complete failure, but this one definitely not a big fan of. But with a little ingenuity and some bracing, you know, I could solve that problem with one thin piece of angle iron at the top, make like a cap, if you will. Just didn't really want to, but I mean, we committed now. So this is my least favorite of all the beds. The other 2 are doing just fine. Ended up cutting them down, modifying them just a little bit to make them more narrower and shorter. Wish I would have made it a little bit shorter, but it is what it is. Now, if you're filling up your raised beds, you don't want to spend a lot of money, let me show you the hack that I do. What I typically do is I fill the maybe 8-10 inches with all organic material. Shredded cardboard, paper. Some people use lumber, logs. The problem with logs is that you don't know the source and where they came from. They could have borers. They could also have termites. These are the issues you run with rotted lumber. I prefer thinner, skinnier branches. So branches this big. Of course, dead plants, coffee grounds, lots of leaves. And in lieu of logs, I prefer dimensional lumber. Breaks down really fast, really easy. Of course, make sure it's not stained, not treated, just plain Jane, 2x4s, 2x2s, whatever. They will rot and break down within a season or 2 with enough moisture. The problem with logs, and even the same problem you're gonna have with leaves, is that if you have too much browns, it's gonna require nitrogen to break down, which will lead to what's called nitrogen lockout, to where it will deplete the nitrogen in your soil in order to get the decomposition process going. So 2 things. You could either A, add more nitrogen to your soil, or B, finally grind up your leaves so that they'll break down easier. You just run a lawnmower over that. I have a video on that somewhere over here or either up there. Add coffee grounds to your leaves, which is going to give you your nitrogen. Same thing with your lumber. Cut it up to smaller pieces. If you want 2 or 3 inches, the smaller you cut it up, the easier it will be to break down. Or you can do that, fill it up, and let it set a season or 2, and then use it the next season. So those are all ways to kind of combat the nitrogen lockout. But as you can see, both of these beds are just about ready. I need to even it out, break down some of these limbs a little bit more. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to go over with about a good 3 inches of composted manure. Of course, I'm going to let it sit a month or two so that, because what's going to happen is all these leaves, especially if you haven't broken them down, they will decompose and start breaking down, which means that your soil level is going to drop maybe 3-4 inches or more. So you may want to let it set a month or two. So I probably won't start planting things in these until April, maybe May, which will give this soil a good time to break down, to set. And I'm going to go over with a good maybe 3 inches of composted manure. But again, I love using these pieces of 2x4s, just cut them up, and then I just fill it with whatever else, food scraps, coffee grounds, shredded lumber or shredded cardboard, you name it. Just fill it up with as much organic material as possible. And these 3 are ready. Now here I'm conflicted. I've used these grow bags and really wasn't a fan of them because I felt like they required extra watering. So I'm debating on whether to go away from the raised grow bed bags or keep them, or go to totes or containers. Still debating. What I'm going to do this year, give it one more year, put a good thick layer of cardboard underneath them and get a better drip irrigation system, a little bit more water running to these, and see if that will help. But everything that I grew, all of my onions and garlic that I grew in the bag, they all died. We just couldn't keep up consistent watering. Same thing with this bed. I got plenty of leaves. Leaves will break down. Soil level is going to drop. I'm going to put some composted manure or topsoil on this bed here, which will eventually get replaced with the metal bed. Now my goal was, calculations were a little off, so I wanted to make the bed shorter, because in the middle of here I want to put maybe two small circular or even smaller round containers here, and maybe one here for flowers. And those are going to be containers with just flowers. And I might still do that. I might just use a bigger pot instead of using the square containers like I wanted to, simply because not as wide as I wanted it to, this area here. So should have made the beds a little bit shorter so I can have a little bit more room, so I can put the flower pots here. So that's something I'm thinking about doing. Contemplating, debating on how am I going about doing that. So if you got any ideas, let me know. But I definitely want to put some flower pots or containers just for flowers in these beds. May be more optimal and easier if I just put the flower pots on the end of the beds going on this row. So still debating. The fabric pots here, they did well over here, just not over there because they just didn't get the consistent water. But here I was able to water them a little bit better. So I think here I'm just going to keep the fabric containers on this row here. I think it does well. And this is going to be cucumbers, vining stuff that's going to be essentially vining up and through the trellis. Got a passion flower here that did really well. That's going to come back. Got a grape here. I believe a scuppernong grape that did really well. And the other thing I need to do is replace this trellis. It's a little beat up, so a little bit of work to do, so a little bit at a time. When it's all said and done, we'll kind of reveal the grand unveiling, if you will. Keep in mind also that these pathways, I got cold board right now. Eventually this will be full with mulch. I really want to I really want to decompose granite. It is a little bit out of my price range. So right now I'm going to use mulch and then get stepping stones in between there. So stepping stones, and mulch, or maybe just mulch. I'm still debating because I want to be able to, if I need to cut the grass, you know, but if I do the stepping stones and mulch, I think I'll be fine. So still debating on exactly how I want to go about. Maybe not stepping stones. Maybe stepping stones here and stepping stones leading to the pergola. But yeah, and still debating on exactly how I want to do it.